Hey second grade, I just wanted to say that I miss you guys so much, but I'm excited because today I'm going to be doing a math lesson on measurement. So over the past couple weeks in math, we've been talking about measuring, showing you guys how to measure things, and we've been estimating measurements, but today we're going to learn 3 new different types of tools we can use to measure and when we should use that tool to measure. So before we jump in and talk about our 3 new measuring tools, I want you guys to look at this picture and tell me what you think this is a picture of. Okay, so this is actually a picture of a Brontosaurus. So these were a type of dinosaurs that lived about 2 million years ago. And this specific dinosaur was one of the biggest dinosaurs ever. I know we have some books about dinosaurs in our classroom, so I was interested to see how tall you think that this dinosaur is. So I want you guys to go ahead and take a guess and see how tall it is. So you guys made a lot of good guesses. So this dinosaur is actually 60 feet tall because it's one of the largest dinosaurs to walk the earth. So to give you an idea of how tall that is, if I round up my height, I'd be close to 6 feet. So I would need 10 of me to be as tall as that dinosaur. So you might be wondering, Miss Wiggins, what does this have to do about math? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to show you 3 new tools that we can use and how many of that tool we would need to be as tall as that dinosaur. Choosing the right tool to measure with is actually really important because if we don't choose the correct measuring tool, it might take us a lot longer to measure something, or we might not be able to measure it at all. For example, what if Principal McAllister asked us if we could measure the playground? Maybe she wants to see if we have enough space to add a little bit more equipment on our playground. If we used a measuring tool that maybe was a little too small, it might take us a lot longer to measure our entire playground than if we used something a little bit bigger and it only took us a couple times to measure. So let's go ahead and talk about our first measuring tool. So our first measuring tool that we're going to be talking about is measuring tape. All right, so let's practice saying it together. Ready? Measuring tape. Now we're going to say it high. Measuring tape. Now we're going to say it low. Measuring tape. A measuring tape shows 60 inches and can be used to measure lengths and distances that are not flat or straight. We use inches when we measure, which is represented in IN. Measuring tape is best to use when we're measuring something that's more of a circular shape. So if we wanted to measure our basketball, we would use a measuring tape. Or maybe our globe that we have in our classroom, we could use a measuring tape for that as well. It doesn't help us when we use our measuring tape for something that really isn't round. So to be as tall as the Brontosaurus, you would actually need 12 measuring tapes. The next tool we're going to talk about is a yardstick. All right, let's practice saying yardstick together. Ready? Yardstick. Now we're going to say it fast. Yardstick. And we're going to say it slow. Yardstick. So a yardstick shows 36 inches or 3 feet and can be used to measure longer flat distances. We use yards when we measure, which is YDS. So yardsticks are best for measuring those long flat distances. So if we think about our classroom door, using a yardstick would be best tool for that because it won't take as many times to measure the door, and it's long enough that it should be able to measure it completely. We could also use it to measure our chalkboard or our whiteboard in our classroom as well. So to be as tall as the Brontosaurus, you would actually need 20 yardsticks. Our last measuring tool that we're going to talk about today is our inch ruler. Okay, so now we're going to practice. Ready? Inch ruler, and now we're going to say it loud. Inch ruler, and now we're going to whisper it. Inch ruler. An inch ruler shows 12 inches and can be used to measure short lengths. We use IN when we measure, which stands for inches. Inch rulers are great for measuring a lot of things that we have on our desk. For example, we can measure our math book, our pencil, our eraser. Maybe you guys have that squishy that I gave you guys. That would be great to measure with an inch ruler. So how many inch rulers do you think we'll need to be as tall as a Brontosaurus? So we would actually need 60 inch rulers to be as tall as a Brontosaurus. That is a lot of inch rulers. Did you guys see the pattern? The smaller the measuring tool got, the more we needed to be as tall as a Brontosaurus. All right, so let's do a quick measuring checkup. So if we wanted to go ahead and measure our math book, which tool do you think would be best to measure a math book? So if you're having some trouble, think about your math book. Is your math book round or is it flat? Is your math book really long or is it kind of short? Which tool would be best to measure something that is flat but it's not super long? So to measure a book, the best tool you can use is an inch ruler. And the reason why is because it is a short distance but it's also flat. And if we were in class, we could see how the inch ruler actually is almost the same size as the book. So we wouldn't have been able to use a measuring tape because remember that measuring tapes are best for something that is circular or round or something that's not straight. And if we used a yardstick, our yardstick is pretty big. It's much bigger than a book, so it would be hard to measure with a yardstick because our book would be like this and our yardstick would be super long. So it might be a little bit more difficult to use a yardstick. Now we're going to go ahead and think about measuring a globe. Remember, our globe is our round earth and we have that in our classroom. And what do you guys think we would use to measure our globe? If you're having trouble, think about the shape of a globe. Is it round or is it flat? What tool best measures something that's round or something that is flat? So for this one, you want to use measuring tape. So the reason why is because measuring tape is best to use when we're measuring objects that aren't necessarily straight, so round objects are best to use with measuring tape. We wouldn't have been able to use a yardstick or an inch ruler because both of them are straight and they wouldn't be able to curve around our globe. So you could think of this as like a Sharpie. If we wanted to measure our wrist is circular, it's not straight. If we wanted to measure our wrist with this straight Sharpie, we can't really do that, right? We couldn't get all the way around it like we could with a measuring tape. Now we're going to talk about a door. So if we were going to measure a door, which tool do you think would be best to use? If you're struggling with this, think of what tool we use when we're measuring something that is long and flat. So for this question, you're going to want to use a yardstick. And we want to use a yardstick because they're best for measuring things that are long and flat. So our door, for example, is a great way we can use a yardstick because our door is long and it's flat. We would not have been able to use the measuring tape because remember, our measuring tape is best when something is round. And if we used an inch ruler, it would take a long time to measure our door because we'd have to keep moving our inch ruler up the door instead of using our yardstick where we could only measure about half the door and then we'd have to measure it again for the other half. All right, thank you guys for listening to my lesson. I hope you guys learned a little bit more about our different measuring tools. So also in this math section, there will be an activity for you to do where you're going to decide which measuring tool you need to use to measure a specific item. For that activity, you're going to be dragging a picture underneath the correct measuring tool. If you need a reminder of what the measuring cards are and the different types of tools, I'll have them on there for you to use while you're doing this activity. After your activity, you're going to be doing a little mini checkup quiz on Socrative. You guys know how to log on to that account, and if you guys have any problems, please reach out to me or Miss Hannah. If you guys have any questions about what's going on in this math center, please reach out to us on Google Classroom and we can help you. All right, bye guys, and good luck with the rest of your math learning.